today that looks different for everybody and that takes various roles. And when you're growing, it's not always, it's like we ask for growth, but you have to understand the implications of what growth looks like for you or for anyone else, right? And what the person said was that growth can feel like grief. Growth can feel like grief. And I said, wow, growth can feel like grief. Now, if any of you have ever lost someone, you understand that grief is a process and grief leaves this, hey, 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 welcome to the Bajo channel. Welcome to another video. This is the home of self-care, beauty, wellness, and any and everything that'll help you to become the most empowered version of you. I heard the most profound statement the other day. I can't even remember. I don't even, it would just, this statement just kind of flew by me, right? But you know how sometimes people speak words and they really land. And I said, I need to speak about that. What the person said was that growth, when you're growing, and that is one of the main objectives in our self-care journey, is to grow and evolve and become better versions of ourselves than we are today. That looks different for everybody and that takes various roles. And when you're growing, it's not always, it's like we ask for growth, but you have to understand the implications of what growth looks like for you or for anyone else, right? And what the person said was that growth can feel like grief. Growth can feel like grief. And I said, wow, growth can feel like grief. Now, if any of you have ever lost someone, you understand that grief is a process and grief is addressing this void or this hole in your heart. Grief is, wow, grief takes on so many different layers and different um, phases. You know what I mean? It comes in waves, you know? But when you grieve, it's like you're grieving because what was there is no longer there, whatever it may be, right? Whether you grieve the loss of a loved one, you grieve the loss of a location where you used to live, you grieve the loss of friends that you no longer have, you could grieve the loss of your job, you could grieve the loss of anything. But when you're growing, especially as it pertains to this self-care journey, it can feel like grief. It can have that feeling of grief. And I want to expound on that just a little. I'm going to do this video in 2 parts because I need to unpack a little bit of this. One of the reasons, right, that growth can feel like grief. As an individual is that you're essentially evolving into a person that you are not familiar with because you've been one person for a long time, and as you grow, you begin to do things, think differently, you're evolving, you're elevating, and sometimes you grieve the loss of your own identity. That's deep because You are familiar with you in certain ways. I'm not even bringing anybody else into the context. I'm just saying you yourself. You're used to maybe having a different type of schedule. You're used to having certain people around you. You're used to eating certain foods. You're used to doing certain things, right? And once you are growing, you realize that you're abandoning all of these things that has become normal to you. And sometimes you can grieve the loss of that identity. And you don't even understand like what's going on, but it's like a void that you feel because I'm no longer that person, right? And sometimes, unfortunately, we tend to relapse. You know, we have relapses. You go back to the familiar. But in this self care journey, it's all about growing and evolving and moving to the next level. And those levels are not as comfortable as the levels before. It's like old shoes. You have old shoes. You know how comfortable old shoes are, right? But at the same time, you know those shoes are worn out. And sometimes the reason they're so comfortable is because they're old and they no longer are providing support that it needs for your feet. So sometimes we hesitate to get rid of them and we keep them, but it's a disservice to our body, to our balance, to the ergonomics of our feet. It's not good anymore. Same thing with when we're leaving our old identity. It's no longer good for us. We're going into different levels and different planes of our life, and it is scary. It is scary. But what's scarier is remaining where you are and losing the time to make up for it. Wishing I had done it then and didn't do it when you were supposed to. So that loss of identity, that growth can make you feel like you're grieving. Another, and this is major. Maybe I should I'll do it now. One of the Another reason why growing in your life can feel like grief is because you lose so many relationships. Everybody cannot go with you. Where you're going, right? It is a place where you only can get when you are determined and you're willing to leave the old to get there. And a lot of times, the relationships that you have had your entire life, they are no longer feasible for you at this next level. That is the grief that you will feel. Because sometimes, here's the thing, you want to take people with you. You want them to come. You're familiar. It's like a familiar blanket, right? You want these people to come because it's not like you guys had a fallout. It's not like you don't love them anymore or you don't want to be around them. But where you're going, it is not for them. They cannot exist in that place. It's like when you take certain animals out of their habitat, they begin to die. You may want a certain animal to live with you in their house, but they're not built for domestication, then you may end up doing the animal more harm than good. You want it because you want it, but the environment does not support that animal. That is very similar and akin to when you're trying to bring relationships into your next level of existence. It's deep. This is deep. This is this existential talk that we don't like to have, that as we exist and evolve and we move to different levels in our life, sometimes a lot of levels you're going to have to be on by yourself. And that takes courage and resilience and knowing who you are. You will not always have these crutches that you have at certain levels of your life. You have to be willing to release that and move forward. That is why I always say on this channel, your relationship with God is has to be first, foremost, and center in your self-care journey. Because as you navigate and as you move to different levels, God has to be your strength and your lifter. Everything. He has to be, or you're not going to make it. You're going to realize how much you need him on those next levels. Because maybe on the lower levels, or I won't even say lower levels, the beginning levels of your life, you had so many people around you to support you and to be that scaffolding, if you will, right? But it comes a time in life where you can't have that anymore. And you have to be willing to abandon relationships to get to the next level. My God, that is powerful. But a lot of times we don't want to do it because it hurts and we don't want to. And that's the thing about growth. Growth is not about what you want to do, it's what you need to do. When you are an adolescent and you're growing into adulthood, this is the part 1 of this video. I'm coming back with part 2 of this video, how growth can definitely feel like grief. Thank you for listening. This is the Bajo channel, home of self-care, beauty, wellness, and any and everything that'll help you to become the most empowered version of you. And until next time, remember that self-care is the best care.